What's up, y'all? Welcome to this week's episode of Music in the Minor League. This week, we're going back north of the border to our friends in Canada. Today, we are joined by Carter Felker out of Calgary, Alberta. His new album, Loser, is coming out in 2 days, so we figured we'd talk to him about that. We got to thank Sean Burns for sending them our way. They're friends from up around Canada, and he hooked us up with a great guest, man. Talking to Carter ruled. It's one of those times where you sit down and talk to somebody, and it's like you've known them forever, so I think it really shows in the conversation. But before we get to the interview, let's do some housekeeping first. As always, if you like the podcast, share it with a friend. Get it out on your socials, help push it, man. It's the best thing we can do to grow this thing. It's just word of mouth. I mean, it's really the only thing that still works now. So if you got the time, just share an episode, man. It really helps us out a lot. 2, if you're in a band, hit us up, man. We'd love to talk to you. The only thing we ask that you have something released, something we can play on the episode. Next up, for Carter Felker, if you're listening to this and you're around Canada, he's got some dates coming up, man. So let's run through a few of them. If you're around Vulcan, Alberta, he'll be at 9 in the Line Brewing on March 19th. March 20th, he'll be in Medicine Hat, Alberta at Liquid Listening Lounge. On March 21st, he'll be at Lethbridge, Alberta at the Owl Acoustic Lounge. On March 22nd, he'll be in Calgary, Alberta at the King Eddie. On March 26th, he'll be in Edmonton, Alberta at the Black Dog. March 27th, he'll be in Grand Prairie, Alberta at Latitude 55. On March 28th, he'll be at Red Deer, Alberta at the Velvet Olive. And on March 29th, he'll be in Bellevue, Alberta at the Ophelia Outpost. So make sure you catch him, man. If you're listening to this and you're up in Alberta, make your way over. Give him a listen, man. As for Brightwire, well, we just have a few things coming up. We're going to start a short run on this Saturday. We'll be heading up to Dallas to play at Opening Bell Coffee. That'll just be us. We'll be playing from 7 to 8:30. On Sunday, we'll be heading up to Oklahoma City to JJ's Alley. We'll also be doing a podcast interview that day, so we got something to look forward to with Griffin Wade and Rachel Lynch. Then on Monday, we'll be heading up to Wichita, Kansas to be play at Kirby's. And then on Tuesday, March 11th, we will be at Beer is Good Brewing in Norman, Oklahoma, which just so happens to be mine and Kim's anniversary. So if you're in the Norman area, come out, wish us a happy anniversary, and have some beers and listen to some music, man. We'd really dig that. All right, I think that's enough for the lead in. Now it's time to get to the show, man. But before we get there, we're going to kick it off with the lead single from Carter's new record, again called Loser. This one is called Cold Wind. Hope you dig it.
Staring at the ceiling, hoping that a feeling will smack me right in the face. But there's cobwebs in my corner and I'm feeling like a loner. I gotta get out of this place. I'm getting sick and tired of being hardwired to bullshit inside of a screen. But I get up every morning, sit atop my toilet and scroll through it like a machine. I can't help it, it just happens. It's like the cold wind, it just blows. I let the world in, not the one I live in. Oh, don't think I don't know. Well, I get to changing the way that I'm behaving, and changing just wasn't so hard. It's not that I don't wanna, but I gotta work tomorrow and I don't know where I should start. I can't afford a shrink, so I just smoke and drink and point fingers to hide from the shame that I've stopped giving all I have to living, and I'm the only one to blame. I can't help it, it just happens. It's like the cold wind, it just blows. I let the world in, not the one I live in. Oh, don't think I don't know. Against the darkness I'm facing, and you know I could use the break. It's easy to see what I gotta be, but I'm too lazy to reach. So next time I'm complaining, go ahead and pull my reins in and tell me to eat a peach. I can't help it,
All right, y'all, welcome to another episode of Music in the Minor League. Today we are here with Carter Felker, one of the greatest songwriters from Alberta, according to Instagram. Calgary, I'm guessing, and that's the only town I know in Alberta, so that's just where I get to be like,
you nailed it.
All right, go Flames. Are the Flames still around? There's so many teams that moved.
They're also something that's the only thing I do. I get off work and I just wait for the Flames to come on TV, then I go to bed.
All right. See, I didn't know. There was a point in my life where I watched hockey religiously, and then I started playing in bands more. Then it's like I don't watch anything anymore. It's like, well, there went that. But anyways, it may sound we're a little familiar because I think we've talked for 30 minutes before we hit record. But we've checked out Carter. First thing was his album that led up to the new one that's coming out is called "Even the Happy Ones Are Sad," which I absolutely love.
What a great name!
Because we're always like, oh, this is our we're here to bum everybody out. And then the next one's just, it's Losers, the album title.
Loser, straight up. That's just
Well, that's why I was like, I want to make sure we went from the long title just we can sum this up into one word. So I just want to make sure.
A little more autobiographical. So I was like, I think that hits the nail on the head.
Well, since he hooked us up, we got to give a shout out to last season guest Sean Burns. Y'all may know from Raw Lost Country has his own podcast. So thanks for Sean for bringing us someone. Which I said Alberta for those of you who are ignorant to the layout of our northern neighbor. That is is it a province or a state in Canada?
It's a province.
All right.
Which is it's a state. It's a province. Yeah.
But I want to make sure I use
in American terms. It's a state.
The proper vernacular. That way it's makes me feel cool.
Province.
For when we defect.
They're the Texas of the North.
When we go up and knock, please let us in when we're the migrants that are coming up.
Can we use you on our visa applications?
You can, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Sweet.
Excellent. We're bringing merch with us.
No. That's where you get in trouble.
We're moving there. We have to bring the merch.
We'll just support Canada when we get there.
Okay.
We'll buy local.
Right.
Okay.
Canadian made.
Try to buy local here, we'll buy local there. So, but anyways, so enough about us. Let's get back to you. So you got a new record coming out. I guess the best thing to do is just, like I say, like we always start out, tell us about your path to music, man.
Well, it's funny. I started, I guess it feels like it was yesterday, but when I say I started late, I was 16, and it's a very Canadian story. I was hired to be a shooter at a goalie school, shooting pucks at goalies. And we were sitting around a fire, and one of the goalies was playing songs. And I was like, what is that song? And he's like, that's one I wrote. And then I was like, wow. And then he played another one. I was like, what about that song? And he's like, I wrote that one. And I was like, you can just do that? You're allowed to write your own songs? Like, I was totally floored. I was so ignorant to it. So I got paid and literally went to the only pawn shop in Caroline, Alberta, where I was shooting at goalies, pucks at goalies. And I bought a guitar, and I was like, show me like 3 chords. And he showed me very moody chords. He showed me A minor, E minor, and G. And I was like, holy shit, I can write some really sad songs with this. Right. And then I just after that, I just went home, and all I did was play guitar. I have 3 brothers, and my parents, so we lived in a pretty small house, not huge, but not too tiny, but I would drive them fucking crazy. I would play night and day and sing in my room, and I could hardly sing, I was just figuring it out, and I just never stopped, ever. When people are like, what do you want to go out tonight? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'd be the guy with the guitar, and it'd be in my car. We'd be at the club. I'd be like, yeah, I gotta go check my car, see if anybody broke in. I would be always the sober driver, because I was just like, I need my guitar with me everywhere. And it's kind of been the same like that forever. It's just a part of me now. And then I grew up in a town called Grand Prairie, Alberta, which I know there's a Grand Prairie, Texas. I don't know if it's similar, but it's an oil town. And I moved to Calgary, which is it's the white collar metropolitan of Alberta. There's another northern city, Edmonton, home of the Oilers, which are an enemy of mine. But I moved to Calgary, and there was just so many places to play, and I started cutting my teeth at open mics. And I remember the first open mic I went to, everyone was so good, and I was so used to being good in Grand Prairie that I was like, I cried. I took my name off the list. I went home and I practiced for like 2 years. And I was like, I'm not playing until I think I could like finger pick like John Prine or something. I was like, that was my goal. And then I went out again and I was like, oh, okay, I think I can do this. And then started performing at open mics, and you meet somebody and they're like, I got a gig and I need someone to open for $15. And you're like, I'll be there. And that was there. Yeah. Now it's like, it's just continuing on. Yeah.
Right, it's like I can make $15 just playing songs I wrote. Hell yeah.
Exactly.
It's kind of the, I think a story a lot of us have, man. It's just that whole, like, I can do this. And then, like,
Yeah.
Nobody told me this was an option when I was 16, or I would have done it long before.
Well, no responsible parent's going to tell their kid to go chase their dreams.
Yeah, it's hilarious. My parents were like that. Like, they were like skeptical. Like, they couldn't really control me because I would just be like, all right, I'd tell them what they want to hear. And then I am a high school dropout. I'm not ashamed to say that. But I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to school. And then they'd be like, the school just called. They said you haven't been there for 3 weeks. And I'd be like, I was at school, which I was just playing guitar in the parking lot. But,
right.
Like,
it's the same thing.
Yeah, you're there. I was, but what happened was like, yeah, they were like, yeah, whatever. And they came to a couple shows. Like I played a cafe one time and they were the only people there. And then my buddy's wife was there. He was the other act and she was reading a newspaper like the entire time, like holding it open like a cart, like a spy movie. It was kind of funny. But they were like, oh yeah, Carter, eventually he'll give it up. But then when I released my first record, it was like sold out. I was surprised, to say the least. And they came in and there was like maybe 150 people there. And my dad's face was like, holy shit, like this is incredible. And he was like, after that, my dad's like, never give it up, never stop. Don't do what I did, And I'm like, wait, have a stable job and raise a family? Like, don't do it.
Marry mom and have kids? Okay.
Yeah.
You regret me, Dad?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Like, your mom and you kids just aren't worth it.
Albatrosses around my neck.
See, I didn't even see it like that. My thought was like you were able to change his mind, number one. And then he was so happy for you that he just wanted you to like keep going. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I have a regular gig at this. It's still legendary, but it was a blues bar in downtown Calgary called the King Eddie Hotel, which was a huge deal. Like Clarence Gatemouth Brown would come up and like tons of people, like like Fred Eaglesmith played there. It was awesome. And then it closed down, and then this museum called the National Music Center was built kind of around it. And they kept the bar, and now sweet. I play every Sunday at 11:30 a.m. at the bar. It's my like home gig, and it's like I always make the joke. I was like, when I used to lay awake at night, I dreamed of playing to you, eating eggs Benedict. Like this was all I ever wanted. But my parents, like, they come every Sunday, and I'm like, Mom and Dad, like, you've heard these songs so many times. Do you ever get sick of it? And they're like, it's something to do. Like, and they tip. Like, I pass the hat, they tip every time. I'm like, thank you.
All right, you can stay.
Like, it's super nice.
So basically, your parents are giving you an allowance. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm being subsidized by the Bank of Dad to this day. Yeah,
It's kind of cool.
It's crazy.
They get to stand there if someone's like, that was great. Like, that was my son. So it's always, that's the real payment.
Yeah, I think that's what they live for a bit. Yeah. I live for it because like Christmas time comes around and I just lord it over my brothers. I'm like, I am their favorite now. You know that, right? And they just hate it.
Right.
They hate it, and I love it.
That's awesome. That's so.
But
great.
yeah, I'm grateful for that. It's but yeah, it's funny like how their switch flipped quite a bit, and they're just like keep going, never stop. And I'm like, all right, I didn't plan on it, and now that I got you guys telling me to do it, I'm like, that's all I'm gonna keep going.
There you go.
Dude, that's legit, man.
It's cool that other people can see the magic too, because when you're in a band and you're performing all the time, not every show is magical,
No. Hell no.
And so it's good to like have witnesses when it is magical. Like so you can convince yourself later that it wasn't imagined.
Well, dude, that's like the other day we did that folk association show in the park, and we played 2 songs, right? And the first song, I wasn't even in the mic in the monitors. I wasn't even in the PA. It was great. It's outdoors. They forgot to turn my line on. It happens, right? But my mom came up afterwards, and she hadn't seen me in probably a year, and she was like crying. She's like, "Oh my God, you're so good!" And I'm like, You didn't even hear me the first song. The second song I totally rocked.
The first song was amazing.
Yeah. The best you've ever sounded.
But it's just so cool when they finally get it, and like, you know, because we just take it for granted because we do this all the time, you know, and we're used to playing to the bar staff or, you know, playing to the girlfriends of the other bands and stuff. So
It's funny too, where I like a podcast like this because I think you guys understand, like, when people come up and they talk to you and you're like, of course I had lofty expectations and goals when I started doing this, but there's times when people are like, how do you keep doing it? I'm like, sometimes when I'm in the middle of nowhere, Saskatchewan, playing to 7 people at a bar, that is like the only social place in the entirety of like 100-kilometer mile radius or whatever. It's like, I kind of wanted this. I used to watch, like, I would see the cover of like Towns Van Zandt of the live at the, what was it, the Old Quarter?
Yeah.
And I just imagined him playing to like 7 drunks. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. Yeah. And then there's times where I'm like, oh, God damn, I just can't wait to pack up and go home. But it's like, it's when your expectations are like you're living in reality, it's hard for your dreams just to be shattered. Like, you're like, no, this is awesome. Like, everyone in this room is kind of happy I'm here. And if they're not, I'm happy I'm here. Like, I love that.
yeah.
Well, it's like we've had nights. It kind of goes both ways. Like, we had a tour we played in Memphis, and there were like maybe 15 people, but there were 15 people watching. So it was like, yeah. And then the next night, it's like 200 people. We made more than the guarantee, but like, those people, most, like, outside of the 15 people we knew, they were just partying and having fun. And it's like, cool, we're playing, but most of them's backs are to us. It was great. We made good money, and it kind of took the wind out of my sails despite all this financial success. It's like, oh, man.
Totally.
And then we've had it the other way, where you play, and it's like, oh, we're at this venue, and it was great. There were all these people, and they had fun. And then the next night, you drive the next town, it's like, and then 3 people showed up the next day.
Oh, man. Been there.
I'm a rock star.
More times than I can count. Yeah.
It's great to get that moment of, we always talk about, like, getting that pedestal gets kicked right out. Like, dude, I'm the best. And then it's like, never mind. No, we're not.
Yeah, it happens.
I don't know if you guys know Skinny Dick, but
how you a nickname?
Pedal steel player. He's a hell of a nickname. He's doing really well for himself as a songwriter, but he used to play pedal steel for me. And one time we played this full club, and it was like pin drop, crowd crying, standing ovation kind of situation. I was like, I didn't expect that. I was like, holy shit. Like, my mind was completely and utterly blown. And then the next night he's like, well, I'm going to go up to Edmonton and play with my wife. And I hired you a guitar player to play with you in Lethbridge, which is 2 hours south of Calgary. And it was this big festival, and the guitar player was so bad and no one cared, and I had a meltdown, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, there's like, you know, it's a festival in a park, and there was like 1,000 people there, no one cared, and the guitar player was just having too much fun for as bad he was playing. I was like, I think it was the first time I ever confronted a person where I was like, what the fuck are you smiling about? You suck. And he was like, and I was like, oh, I went way too far. I'm having a meltdown. I need to take a walk. And I was like, I still was so mad at Skinny for leaving. And then I was like, well, it was his wife's band. He has to go. Like,
he didn't have a choice.
The band.
Yeah.
He could have vetted the replacement better.
Yeah, exactly. The high and the low was incredible, though. I was like, I'm making it. I think tomorrow, Nashville's going to call. The record's going to roll through. I know it. And then it was like the next day, I'm like, I'm nobody. I'm scum.
Right. I
think we've
fraud.
Yeah. I was like, I'm just throwing this guitar out. Yeah. And then I got given this Blaze Foley CD. It was like a Lost Recordings.
Yeah.
Where he recorded it in Memphis. And it was such a disappointment. I was waiting for this CD. I was like, I can't wait to hear this. And I was so bummed out by it. The production bothered me so much. And I was like, this is just a shit sandwich. Bless that record. It's good now. But at the time, I was not expecting like weird 80s strat tones.
Yeah, it was a little odd in that regard. But yeah, it's like those are kind of the area we hang around, like Blaze Foley, Townsville are kind of like the saints of because a friend of ours runs the Old Quarter now that's in Galveston, so they moved. The one in Houston shut down, and then Brex Bell, who was Towns' bass player and the owner of the original Old Quarter, moved to Galveston and opened one there. And
what's that spot like? I've seen it. I think I've seen it on shows.
Yeah, it's a great room, man. It's a great listening room. Our friend Joel bought it from Rex, 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Rex is still around when his health's permitting, but it's like It's still one of the best listening rooms we've been to. Like
it just sounds great
in there. Yeah, and then
That's
Joel knows his
awesome.
room, so he can make it sound great in there.
You guys have all that, like the mojo. The Texas songwriter thing is, it's incredible. I mean, music in Texas is, and it's like, I always think Texas is so cool because it's like, there's this thing where it's like, you'll get like a Robert Earl Keen, and then you'll get like a Joe Ely, and then you'll get like a Guy, and then it's like, they're all so different. There's no comparison between each one of them. There's kind of a through line, but they're like so themselves that I'm like, I love that. I think that's the one thing that I think about Texas songwriting that blows my mind. And it's just like, you guys got the mojo, Lyle Lovett, all that stuff. Like, and even the people doing it now, like, it's insane.
I think a lot of it comes by we always talk about the geography. It's such a huge place.
just vast.
That, I mean, you can be from Texas, like, I grew up on the beach, or I grew up like next to a canyon, or I grew up in the desert, or I grew up in the woods, you know, and it's like, it's all within the same state. It's like,
true.
Cool. It's like,
it's awesome. Like, I'm like, there's something about, I've never been there. And it's like, I watch movies and they'll be like, we're in the Galveston Bay area. And I'm like, that seems like my style of like Hard Knock meets beach meets oil derrick. Like, I'm like, I relate to that for some reason. I think the people of the Galveston area and me would probably find some sort of common bond.
I could definitely see that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's like Chris Olsen just like showed up, like, I'm coming to the old quarter, and he like, just, I'm staying here, and he is like from Georgia?
Yeah, I think so.
Just like, cool, man, just showed up and was like, I'm gonna stay here. Like, I decided this is my speed, and it's still one of the places. Galveston's, that whole peninsula, like where I grew up down in Galveston on Bald Peninsula, it's like always still feels like a few years behind the curve when it comes to everything else, which is always a positive thing, because when everything's getting all weird, it's like, man, we're just hanging on the beach, man. You want to play some songs and do this? Like, cool.
Yeah.
So it's a good vibe,
yeah,
man.
the Texan beach bum. That's kind of I like that.
Yeah.
We don't have that in Alberta. We don't even have, we lack lakes. Every province except ours has like zillions of lakes. Alberta's got like weird, tiny glacier-fed rivers that freeze your ass off all year long. Ooh. And prairie and mountain. We're right up against the Rockies.
You don't want to get in the water here anyway.
It's cool.
So.
It's just freezing cold.
It's like bath water here.
It's gross. Yeah, our water. Yeah, you might find like a severed toe or a Band-Aid.
It's really the problem with like the Galveston, like our area is we're like the armpit of America, because the way the tides go, they come all the way down from Florida and they basically whirlpool right around there and head south into Mexico. So all of the shit just like kind of just comes to the surface. It looks like chocolate milk, and it's like a very unappetizing version of Willy Wonka's Chocolate River.
Tastes the same though.
Maybe after Augustus Gloop fell in.
Dude, but like
that's is just Augustus in there.
Yeah, dude. Well, that's the funny part about it is like a couple times a year it'll like clear out all the brown water and we'll get clear water, and it's like people will like stop everything and go to the beach because they're like, I can see my feet in the water.
It's like a snow day.
It's
clear.
Friends finally happened.
Friends driving by. I remember being a kid driving by. Dude, it's clear. Oh,
we're not going to school today.
That's awesome.
Oh man.
I guess I just got ruined. I hate the beach. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
But I grew up in San Diego. My dad was in the Navy. And so going to the beach was salt water is sticky. Sand sticks to you. It's not fun. I just never enjoyed the beach. So.
Well, you're a Debbie Downer when
you're
it comes
yeah.
Because you're a nerd.
I'm glad you guys like the beach, but
I like the beach.
Y'all can have it.
I like the beach.
I'm so far from the coast that it's still it's like
a novel thing.
The novelty hasn't worn off. I'm always like, oh my God. I get like emotional. Like, look at all this salt water. It's awesome. But I do understand.
It is pretty. I just don't want to go down onto it or get wet or anything like that. I will say, I did have an experience the first time I ever was in Galveston. There's just the way the streets are set up and how sometimes you can come up over like a hill and boom, you're at the strand, which is, there's nothing beyond that. It's just, you're at the edge of the beach.
You mean the seawall?
Seawall, sorry, not the strand. See, you guys guys know. You guys are from there, and I'm not. Sorry. But that was like really shocking to just be in my car and be like, oh, if I drove like 20 feet, I'd just be in the ocean. That's pretty crazy. but yeah, I want to look at it from my car, I think.
Yeah, I can understand that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. Well, yeah, because like also being on the Gulf Coast like we are, we get these random tar balls that come up. And if those get on you, you're like covered in this gross oil tar thing. And it's not fun.
Yeah, they weren't as bad, but I feel like I'm not going to get in the reason why, but I feel like we're about to see more tar balls again.
I think so too.
You think?
I think, just that's going to happen.
The old drill, baby, drill situation.
Yeah.
Get it while you can, baby.
I remember when I get the cancer, it's going to be from playing with tar balls and going home using my grandpa's lighter fluid to get it off.
To burn it off.
Oh, it's all right. We'll just squirt some lighter fluid on your hands and rub them together. And it's like, this is healthy.
Dude, I would go to my grandpa's and he'd give me diesel fuel to wash my hands. Oh my God.
That's how we used to do the lines on the baseball field and the football field. They'd use diesel, kill the grass.
Are you not supposed to clean
Just
your
kill
hands
the
with
grass.
gasoline?
No, you're not supposed to clean your hands with gasoline because your
grew up
body absorbs it.
I grew up in a house with a mechanic. That's what solvents clean hands. That's what he thought.
They do, but that also says on the container, do not get on bare skin. But hey, whatever, dude. Like, come on. Come on. We grew up in a time when those things weren't bad. Like, how many kids played with pure mercury when they were kids?
So in Canada, do y'all just put gasoline on everything? Is that something y'all do?
To like as a solvent
That's a good
clean
question.
things? Yeah.
In Canada, well, I mean, I'm from the big exporter of oil and gas. We have the tar sands up where I'm from, and I grew up in like an oil town, and I don't know if we put gas on everything. There was a while where we put like cocaine on everything. There was a lot of money up there, and that was kind of it. Yeah,
Right. Going
that
to
was like
Alberta.
when I was growing up. That's all you saw was like young people with money. So drugs were crazy.
Wow.
And then
Powdered
as far as
donuts.
cleaning your hands. We used that orange shit that feels like sand and goop had a
Oh,
baby.
dude, yeah.
Why don't you just
Yeah.
Gojo.
Yeah, the jelly
it's,
stuff. My dad had that.
Lava soap.
Say that again.
It was Gojo.
Lava soap. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
we used to.
But
Me and from like the oil thing, so man, like I know for us, where I grew up, it was a bunch of pumps and everything, a lot of old oil ground. We could just go out there. That's where we did all sorts of stuff. We'd go out there and just hang out in the oil fields because no one else was coming out there. It was
You drink beer out there and
we'd
have
have a party, play music and just like hang around and
Did y'all have a place like
kinda,
that growing up?
Say that again.
Did y'all have a place like that growing up?
Yeah, we had it was the quarry, the gravel pits where we would go, and it was wild. It was insane. And I always remember my buddy who had his boom box. He had like extended speaker wire so he could take his speakers out and put them on top of his car or beside it. And he backed up too close to the fire. his taillights melted and like it was hilarious and he was not happy. I do distinctly remember that.
That's great.
Wow.
Are your taillights supposed to be so flexible? Like push your finger through it? That's not
Yeah,
good.
that's like pretty much what happened. Like I think he slept in the back of his car and then woke up the next morning and his taillights were like collapsed.
Oh my God.
Like just melted like inward.
Oh man.
what the hell happened?
I'm never going to pass my inspection like this.
Gotta be a song in there. Somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. That was funny. But growing up north, like I grew up like northwestern Alberta, and where it's like winter's like minus 42
Oh my God.
Celsius. I don't know what that is. Minus 20 Fahrenheit. I
That's
don't
still
really know what
cold.
that is.
It's ridiculous. I can tell you
Cold
that.
as hell. And like it was like that's wintertime was so busy because it was like a swamp. So everybody who worked in the oil patch when the ground was frozen would go out and like work, and then spring would come and it was breakup, and it was like insane just the amount of money and partying and you could be like 15 years old and make like, if you had a part-time job you could make like $30,000-$40,000. Like it was insane. Like
Oh
and
my
then
gosh.
economy hit the shitter, town went to shit, and now it's kind of in between. It goes up and down, but it was wild. Like as far as like we didn't have like I didn't swim in no tar balls or anything like that. But
Oh man.
yeah,
Like,
and there was mosquitoes the size of helicopters. Like that's like the nature I grew up in. And if you were walking the streets at night, they'd be like, "Be careful for large moose." They would come out of the bush and like chase you.
Yeah, dude. No, I have a friend who lives up in the Rocky Mountains in Canada, Colorado, and he's like the same thing. He's like, dude, if you see a moose, don't mess with it. Give it plenty of space because they are aggressive as hell.
They are. It's crazy. I always remember as a young man, I was just got into smoking pot and I was out for a late night walk and I was standing on a sidewalk and I heard this like whooshing sound in the trees and it was like whoosh, whoosh, like, and I was like, what is that? So I ran across the street, just like, I don't know what the hell that is. And then out of nowhere, this like huge bull moose came like flying out of the trees and like stopped in the street. Oh, God. And I was like, if I was, I'm glad I was high and alert and not high and in the clouds. It was freaky. I was like, and then for a second I was like, I think this moose is trying to tell me something spiritual or something.
Is this my vision quest?
You better run. That's
Are you here to lead me on my quest?
Kind of, yeah. I was like, whoa. And then I was like, I walked like 15 more feet, came down a little bit, and I was like, I'm fine. It's just a fucking moose. I should get out of here. It's going to crush me.
Right. I'm not going to win this.
I'm just in
no way.
They're like, did y'all have mosquitoes all the way up there?
Mosquitoes down here suck so bad.
They apparently have
everywhere.
Yeah, we got them bad.
They're everywhere. There's no escaping them. It sucks. I always have this lie you tell yourself, like, oh, if you go here, there won't be mosquitoes. But apparently, they're everywhere.
I wish I knew enough about biology and science to figure out how they live through an entire winter just to emerge and destroy my life.
Right. Yeah. Like
It's insane.
They're kind of like the perfect predator. They go dormant. Like in down here, they can their eggs can be laid like in water and then it dries up, right? And so they're dead. No, they get reconstituted when the water comes back.
It's like yeast.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's like, what did we do wrong? Like, who did we piss off?
Piss off.
Oh, they're the worst.
So a good thing, something that we can relate to as well is I know that, like you were talking about, there's all these little towns and everything's, from what I know from friends who have toured up in Canada, like everything's a pretty good distance from each other. Like it's, and the point I think of all that is, so like you hear about these cold winters, I'm guessing like touring during the winter is not something that's done easily.
No, I mean, I think the big thing is like, I've never really bothered. I kind of have I call it like the Alberta kind of radius, or if the money's really good, I'll go. But it's like I'll usually Edmonton, which is 3 hours north, and Medicine Hat, which is 3 hours southeast, and then there's Lethbridge, which is about 2 hours southwest, and then Calgary. I kind of stay in that region. It's nice to have a regular gig and to live in a big city that has like a lot of music happening. It can keep you on your toes and keep you fresh. But you meet people like like I have friends that I'm always shocked by the fact that they are like, it's like February and they're like, I'm doing a 60-day run or a 40-day run from Montreal to the coast, and I'm like, that's crazy. Driving like to the Canadian Shield through Ontario, which is like the longest drive of all time, and you go tree blind because you're just driving through forest and you're driving through all these towns that are weird and full of crazy people, and it's just like there's people that do it, and I'm like, I mean, there's probably a lot of meat on the bone if you're willing to go, but it's just like, it's a lot. Like even like like Sean Burns always tells me, he's like, you start touring in April and then quit in October, because there's times you go out in April and you run into I did a tour with my partner and me and her, and it was like 25 degrees in April, and we were driving down from Edmonton back to play a place called Twin Butte, which is a little like gas station Mexican restaurant in like the middle of southern Alberta Rockies. Like it's crazy. It's a beautiful little room, and we hit a blizzard like when we got to our hometown, and we're like, let's like wait it out. And I called the lady and she was like, it's not snowing down here, and she was kind of mad. And then she called me back like 2 hours later. She's like, I can't even see where I parked.
Oh God.
Like it's so crazy. And my buddy called me and he's like, we were driving to your show, and like they had to like pull over and wait it out, and they got snowed into their car, like, and it's April. You're like, okay, it went from like 25 out to like -10, heavy wet snow, no visibility. Like you can run into that so easy here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is what it is, but it's I don't know. There's times where I'm like, I'm gonna go do it, and then it's like I get one bad day on the road, and I'm like, should I cancel all the gigs for the rest of the year just to play it safe?
Well, to lose your transportation as a traveling musician is a big deal. You got to protect that,
Yeah.
That's one of your tools.
Too.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And if there's people who fly around and stuff, and I'm not a flyer. Like, I'm not great. I remember I went to, you guys ever been to Folk Alliance? I went to Folk Alliance in Kansas City one time.
Yeah.
And,
never been there, but we know.
I was going to live in, I decided I'm living in Chicago because we landed at O'Hare and I was like so plane sick and I'm a terrible flyer that I was like, I think I'm going to like Illinois. I called my gal. I was like, I'm not coming back. Then I ate like 7 Chicago dogs and I was fine. And I got on the plane and we made it home. But I still remember the plane turning like sideways as we landed in that Illinois wind.
Oh,
and we hit the tarmac and like turned straight. And I was like, was that supposed to happen? Did we just about die? And everyone was like totally normal. But I'm not a flyer. I'll drive wherever you want me to drive and I'll go the whole way. But it's,
I'm the exact same way.
You get people in Canada that are like, I'll rent a guitar when I get to where I'm going. Like, we're lucky because we have like the Canadian version of Guitar Center is actually amazing. It's called Long and McQuaid, and they're like subsidizing Canadian musicians because you can go to like a Long McQuaid. You can rent whatever piece of gear you want that they have and drive across Canada and bring it to another Long McQuaid, and they'll just ship it back for zero cost
to
the other
killer.
Long McQuaid.
Dude,
yeah, it's
badass.
awesome. And it's like you see people do that and I'm like, all right, but I don't want to do that. I just want to get in my car and I love driving. Like, if the weather's good, I'm totally happy to be on the road. It's part of it. I love talking to my buddies in the car, like the bandmates, or having conversations, and like that's valuable time to me. There's times where I'm like, that's where like all this good stuff happens. You get to know people. Sometimes you get to hate people.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Well, and I think that's the cool part about it. Like, and that's one of the nice parts about touring is you have those times where like no one's on their phone and you're just having a stupid conversation about the dumbest thing. Like, we have some very interesting conversations because we listen to a lot of audiobooks on tour. And so depending on what we're listening to that day, we have some really interesting conversations, but it's nice because then it kind of makes being on stage even that much more comfortable for us because we hang out and we do, what I mean? So I get it. Like, that's some quality time that I don't think a lot of people understand. Like, that's the good stuff.
Totally. And it's like, it's totally different too. Cause I always think of the one thing about touring with a band is you get those conversations, but then it's not like a job. You're not going to like a work conference. You're going to a place to do something like really intimate in a way. Like, it's like to this day, like if I like singing with another person is like, it feels like I'm exposing myself to them in ways that I shouldn't be. I've always felt that. It's amazing. Like but it's like playing with a band and you're like, we're doing it, guys. Like, we're up here together. We're in this together is an incredible feeling. And then you're in the car and you're like talking about stuff. It's like you get incredibly deep. Like, that's one thing I notice about bands is like there's always like the difference in like the friends that you have. It's like we play music together and then it's like sometimes you have these conversations, but then you also realize like your hobbies and interests are completely different than say your bass players. Like, I got one guy, he's like, I've hired a few times, he's like super Buddhist, incredible thinker. Like, we're totally different dudes. Like, I love meditating, but our closeness because of being in the car and playing music together is like, it's weird. Like, you see him and you're like, that's my boy, that's my bro, that's somebody I will never ever like, it's weird. It is weird, but it's so great. It's the conversations you get to have in a car are, especially when you're in a band, is incredible. And it's weird when you see bands, like you hear about bands like, we didn't talk, we took different planes. Like, you're like, ooh, how does that work?
They don't like each other.
Yeah, that's nuts. And it's like it's crazy because the more I play, the more I realize like I'm always looking for guys and gals that I like really enjoy playing music with, like musically. But it's like sometimes the hang is like so worth that peace of mind. Like don't get me wrong, I there's nothing worse when you're like, I really like this guy, but he never practices, never picks up the guitar, and like is always defending playing bad. Like, I've had those guys where I'm like, oh, I wish if only you took this more seriously. But like it is crazy to me that there's bands that's like, we hate each other.
Yeah.
And they still make great art. You're like, holy shit, like that's crazy too.
Imagine if you liked each other. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
But it goes back to like I just listened to Bob Mould's book, and like as this thing happens, like I feel like in all these band musician biographies where it's like, and that's when the band became a business. And it's like, and every time it's like, and then it went to shit. We all hated each other. We made a couple records and then like everyone either quit or this happened. It's like, yeah, man, it's like, I understand there is a business aspect, but still got to be like an artistic endeavor instead of just like, we have to make this record because it's time to put out a new product.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a nice thing about, I'd say, being like minor league, small time, whatever I want to call myself, is like I've always been able to stick to my guns and be like, I'm doing this if I like it, and if you don't like it, fuck you. I didn't make this for you. I hope you consume it, but it's like, this is for me. This is because that's how I go to sleep at night. I'm like, I put something out, I put my heart into it, I enjoyed the final product, and if I listen to it later and don't like it, maybe I'm growing, but I'm like, I knew at the time that it's like I didn't compromise. That's like, I'm glad that there's no one above me going like, you know, that's the nice thing about being like, I'm on with Sean Burns' label, like I'm the first artist he's kind of put on it, and he's just like way too nice to me. He's like, he says the nicest stuff about my stuff, and it hypes me up. I'm like, whoa, I'm getting, you know, thanks for the juice, because I feel like I'm the greatest thing that's ever happened to music. And he's like, yeah, he'll be like, you gotta, you know, he's like, you gotta send this out to more places. You gotta talk. He's like, get this in somebody's ears. And I'm like, you know, thanks, Sean. I'm like, now that I'm on your label, you should do that. I'm like, how about you do it? But, and he's been really great. Like, he reached out to you guys, and he's like, he's always has my back. But I'm like, it's so nice to know. He's like, it's just about the art and committing to like that. There's no, like, even when he's like, he's not worried about me selling X amount of units or, you know, all that other shit, which, I mean, yeah, I would love this success. Like, I mean, oh yeah, who wouldn't? But some of the burdens that come with that, I do understand. Yeah. And I'm grateful that I have somebody who has my back artistically. And that's why I kind of chose, when Sean approached me about signing with him, was to do it. Because, I mean, he's passionate. Like, he is like the most like true blue 100%. It's the way it is. Like, I don't know how to describe him other than the fact that he's hardline. I love him for it. And him having my back, especially as a songwriter, is like a great honor. Because, I mean, if he doesn't like something, he'll tell you.
Yeah, he's a hell of a player too, man. Like,
man, incredible.
Lost Country Records killer. Then like Corbelon's new record. I'd never really listened to him. That new record is just stellar. Like, it was just.
He's a deity in Alberta. Mm-hmm. Like, he is a huge deal in Canada, but in Alberta, because he's from Taber, which is kind of, I guess it'd be. I'm trying to think of it's closer to Lethbridge, southwestern part of the province. But he sold out like one time years ago, 2008 or 9. He did a thing, and it was he sold out the Coliseum, which is 17,000 seats. It's where the Oilers used to play. It was, and like, yeah, he's like worshipped. Wow. He did like this Back to the Barrooms tour, and he played this one bar that is like my favorite bar in Calgary called the Palomino. He played 9 nights in a row there.
Oh my God.
And it was sold out every night.
That's
like,
amazing.
Opened the shows, and it was incredible. And it was like the first cool show I ever went to. This is a good story. I used to go to this bar underage, illegally, of course, called BJ's Sports Lounge, and Corb played there, and I snuck in, and BJ, I was with a friend of BJ's son, and he saw us, and he's like, what the fuck are you kids doing in here? And we were like stunned. We're like, he's going to toss us out on our ass. He's like, you can stay for 2 beers. And he cracked his beers. We got to watch Corb Lund play, and it blew my mind, changed my life. But yeah, he's a huge deal. And the fact that Sean deserves that gig. He is so prepared, and like, you know, he's been grinding it away for so long. He's the guy who used to tour in the wintertime, and everyone would get really excited. Sean would come to town. He played this bar called the Blues Can. He'd do a 3-setter. He'd mix in some really great covers and like some of his originals and some songs that guys that he knew wrote. And he always brings it. He's just like, he's the one guy you listen to, like, see a Sean Burns show. A show is a show with Sean 100% the whole time.
Awesome, man.
And we know some bands like that. And when you can do a show and you are on 100% every time, that is that's a masterclass for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I guess this is a good time to jump in. You do have the new record called Loser. So, time's getting late. Let's talk a little bit about that, man. Tell us what to expect.
It's I'm like, sonically, it's a little bit of a break from the acoustic guitar picking. I've had my Judas moment. I've gone electric. I discovered that I forgot I bought a Telecaster, and I was like, oh yeah, I own this thing. And just like, I don't know what happened. I just went down this wormhole of like, man, I love electric guitar guitar, and of course there's that. And then I have one of my best buddies. His name's Jeff Kynock. He produced the record. He during COVID he moved out to like a acreage in a town called Acme, which is a little bit north of here, and he built his studio. And I had made a record not that long before that, Even the Happy Ones Are Sad, and he's like, why don't you come out and bring your pedal steel player and drink some beers and we'll do a demo. And then we did this demo and it sounded better than the record I had just made. And I was like, I kind of had a little existential crisis. I'm like, what did I do? I spent all my money. And then he's like, let's make a record. And I was like, yeah. And then we're really lucky. We have like grants in Canada that you can apply for. And the government of Alberta, I applied for a grant, and shockingly they gave me a grant and I couldn't believe it. So I had to go make this record in like under duress, because they're like, this record needs to be reported back to the government by this time. And it was like, so the guys, we all went out there and we made this record, and it's awesome. I'm super pumped about it. Like it's definitely a little bit of a change of pace for me. It's a little more heavy but still quirky. Yeah, I got a little weird in me. No matter what I do, I'm like, I think I'm gonna make something sound like something you've heard before, and it always just comes out a little left of that. But yeah, it's awesome. It's very introspective. It's all more personal stories than I've ever done, and kind of ditched the story song for this one. Yeah, Loser came naturally. There's a line in one of the songs where I say, I've always been a loser and that ain't bound to change. And I was just like, yeah, this is kind of a confession of like me being, kind of a selfish songwriter, to be honest, somebody who will blow most things off to go do what I want to do, and that's make music. And I'm lucky my partner is also a songwriter. She's a lot less selfish than me, but I think she understands when I'm being an asshole. But I guess that's my ego talking. There's a lot of that in there. You'll hear it. Yeah.
The process is different for everybody,
So how long have you been actually writing songs?
I started writing I'm 35 now. It feels like, let's say 20 years. That's crazy to say. You never think you'll be the age where you say 20 years ago, you remember it.
We're there.
So yeah, exactly. I think we all are. So since I was about 16, 17.
Okay. So about the same time that you picked up the guitar, you were like, okay, I can write lyrics and I can write
That's
chords.
all I wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. You meet a lot of people when they're like, yeah, I just wrote a song, but it's like, that's all I wanted to do. And I got really lucky. I was introduced to like some heavy songwriters kind of randomly. I was working in a liquor store and this guy had an iPod. That was before they were a thing. And I always tell this story. He had a playlist called It Ain't Country Unless a Fat Lady Sings. And he had like John Prine and Son Volt and Townes Van Zandt and Todd Snyder, who like blew my mind. Just like listening to him tell stories.
Yeah.
Like guys like that. And I was like, okay, country music isn't just like Alan Jackson and I love that guy, don't get me wrong, but like there's like songwriting folk aspects of that where it's like, where did the songs come from? And then I just started keep getting deeper and deeper into like that side of it, like Slade Cleaves and Ray Wiley Hubbard and then like Bright Eyes, like it was of the time. Like I thought Conor Oberst was like the Bob Dylan of my generation. Like he was incredible, and like stuff like that just kept coming into my life after that moment. Like Core Blund was like a huge deal. He had this record called $5 Bill that every one of me and my friends, we'd be in a parking lot just chewing Copenhagen and drinking beers and listening to Core Blund and like acting like we were cowboys when we were just towny kids that wanted to like, yeah, it like in my life, yeah, I was really lucky. And then I just wanted to write, and I wanted to write like them and capture what they were doing, and I don't think I ever did, to be honest. Those are all greats, but I think I got lucky to be able to hear that stuff when I was I still had my soft baby head, if you will.
Your fontanels hadn't fused together yet.
Exactly. I'm glad you got the reference.
You're welcome.
It's a similar story for a lot of people, man. Just those records you found at the right time, and then it kind of pulled it all together.
Yeah. What is your moments? I want to know, because we're here talking about it. I know you're asking me the questions, but I always want to know.
It's weird.
Do you remember what was the record you're like, I'm going to do this?
Well, it's funny. It wasn't even a record that where I was going to do this. The first time we talked about this past, for me, I remember being at my friend Nathan's house one night, like up late, and like a Primus video came on. I was like, I want to play a bass. And then I got it and I couldn't. I was like, yeah, no, this is not something I can do. And it was way too much work ethic for me to put into that. So I was like, I can't remember what it was. Like, I think one of the first things I learned was like, oh, dude, like here's like a Sex Pistols song. I can learn that. That's like 5 notes. And then from there, it was like, playing with people, then getting a guitar. And then once I was in college, I kind of led to where we're at now. My freshman year, I went and tried out for some, I moved to college and these people had like, at the local music store, like looking for a guitarist and bassist. So I was like, I'm going to try out for both of those. And when I got home from that practice, my brother put on Sunvolt Trace and 5 Second News when that lap steel kicks in. It was like, I feel sick. Like that, just that sound. But in a good way, it was like that. The music just made me feel like, it's weird to be like, it pulled me in because it made me feel like the hopelessness and like desolation of the story. And I was like, never mind, I want to do that now. Like maybe acoustic guitars aren't these stupid things that only old people play. Like maybe I can get one and write songs that are outside of like, my parents fucking suck, things like that. So,
man, that Trace was Sunvolt blew my mind. Where I was like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was like, this is what is this? And everyone's like, it's alt country. And I'm like, it's good. That's all it is. It blew my mind. Yeah. What about you, Kim?
Oh gosh, I know we've discussed it before, but I have a terrible, terrible memory, so I'm not really sure what I said. But what comes to my mind is my mom was a piano player. And both like my grandmother, my great aunt, everybody sang in my house. And, like my mom played drums and it was just a musical house I grew up in. And there was no choice when family was over. Like my mom got on the piano and they would make me sing. So I didn't have a choice at first.
Family.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's where the best, I always find the best musicians come from, like people that are like, it's just part of life. It's breathing.
Oh, I wish I didn't actually learn to play any instruments or anything. I just sing, but it was so much fun, and it's just second nature to me since I've done it since I was a kid. Kind of like y'all playing guitar, Yeah,
you might not play an instrument, but dude, you can harmonize with anybody. Yeah. Like that, you can. Like I've never. Yeah, dude, like, don't let her downplay it either, man. Like it's crazy because we do shows with Grifters and Chills, are friends of ours, and she'll do a song with them, and man, when she hits the third part harmony, it's just beautiful. Like people, they could be the drunkest person in the bar who's been obnoxious all night. The second that happens, it's like he even stops. Like, what the hell?
I think it's just that you don't get much 3-part harmony in dive bars.
I don't know. It works, but it could be. It doesn't even matter where we play it.
Harmonies are the hardest. Yeah, they're so nice. I'm always like, I can't sing the same note twice. So like, if people always ask me on my records, they always go, so like, harmonies, and I'm like, I just don't want to have somebody like chasing the recording and being like, what the hell happened up here? Because that's like my bass player sings harmonies with me, and he's like, Jesus, dude. He's like, I just know that like where you're gonna sing just by the way you're standing. He's like, you got a little slouch. You're gonna do like a little nasally. You're gonna do your head voice that time. But he's like, if you're standing straight up, it's like I don't know what's happening.
Oh, that's funny.
What about you,
man? The crazy part for me is I wouldn't call myself a songwriter. I've always been a kind of a side guy. I've always like when I hear music, I hear things that accompany it, and so that's how I've always like approached music writing. Is Sam, Kim will have an idea and they'll kind of play through it, and I'll just kind of find my path through their songs. So I don't know that you would really call it like a songwriter. It's just weird. I've always been like that. When I was a kid, I'm classically taught on trumpet, and so I could read music and all that stuff. But even when we were playing like classical pieces, I could always hear like counter melodies and things like that in my head. And so when I started picking up like I was told I was going to learn how to play the lap steel. I didn't know anything about the instrument really. Like I knew that the instrument, I knew the sound just because my grandparents had records that I'd hear as a kid. And then I started, just kind of fumble farting like I was in my 20s, I think, when I picked up a lap steel, or like late 20s. And I remember picking it up and being like, okay, I don't know anything about this instrument, but I know the sounds that come out of it. And so if I can emulate what I'm hearing, I'll figure. And dude, that's how I've approached it since day one. And it's just been a really cool thing. So I don't have a preconceived notion about an instrument, which is kind of weird coming into it. Because like my friends that play pedal steel, like they're all like, they study it. And like that was never, I hear a sound and I go for that sound. I hear it in my head and I follow that kind of. So I don't know. It's just kind of always the way I've been. And I come from a semi-musical family. Like my mom was in band and things like that, but my dad wasn't at all. But he's like the hugest like supporter of everything I've ever done. So it's just really, really funny coming from that. But like when I think about who I listened to the most music with, it was always with my dad. Like all the time, like any type of new, like country, rock, anything, he listened to everything. And so it's just interesting when I think about it now. It's like, wow, my dad was probably one of the biggest influences on my musical choices unknowingly, just because that's what he was always the one who was around playing music, So it's just, I'm that guy. Maybe
It's crazy when you meet I've realized this last year after playing this record and like carrying a band around more often is like I have a couple pedal steel players that I hire and they're always like, I don't really listen to lyrics, but Carter, you write a pretty good song. And I'm like, you don't listen to the lyrics? And they're like, nah, I just like learned the parts and I like listen to the music and how I want to make it. And I'm like, that's crazy to me. And then I have a drummer who's like, yeah, I listen to every word of every song. And it's like what informs me. It's like everyone has such a different approach musically, especially side guys. And the fact that you can be a team player, because like I'm trying to learn to play bass in my gal's band. And I just am embarrassed. The second I start playing, I'm like, I think I'm doing okay. And then she's like, you are doing okay. But I'm like, this is so weird to like just be playing along and not like directing, like like being a singer-songwriter. I had a guy, he's a talent buyer, a friend of mine, and he's like, it's the easiest genre, but it's the hardest to be good at because you get to go up there and make up all the words and chords. And that's that. And I'm like, that is a fair point. He's like, try playing guitar in a band. And I'm like, no, thanks, not for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the hard part about it too. Is when you're a lead player, like it's one of those things that you don't really think about. You can make or break. Like you were talking about the guitar player who kind of ruined your set. Like you can make or break a set with what you bring to the table.
Totally.
And so it's when you think about it, it's a lot of pressure. Because you always have to. It's one thing like a singer can fumble fart a lyric, right? No one's going to know.
Yeah.
But you play it, an E where there's supposed to be an A. There can be some problems, and it's like
exactly.
No one forgets that,
especially on bass. Bass is the one that's the toughest because there's nothing else there except like a kick drum. So kick drums is like
I know,
and you go doo doo doo. It's like everyone in the room looks over at you, and you're like, that was me.
that was me.
I love to bust my bass player's balls. I always go, you get one honker. Because it's just so obvious.
See, I think for all of us at one point have been a side person in a band or in multiple bands. Like I had bands, I played bass, I played, guitar and pedal, like lap steel, not pedal steel. I'm not that talented, but things like that. So it does make me, even when I write my own songs, like I walk around the house and play them like every day for a while just to make sure it's like, all right, we get there. Like I know how to play everything. And it's, of course, and then I'll still end up being like, what's that dude doing over there? And it's like, oh, I was supposed to sing.
Man. Yeah, exactly. When you're like watching, you're like, holy moly, they sound good. And then you're like, that happens to me like the amount of times I'm at like playing a nice show and I'm like, we're crushing it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm blowing it because I'm thinking about how we're crushing it. And I'm like, shit.
You can't think about the no-hitter. You just have to pitch it.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you think about it, you're giving up a hit.
There it is every time, man.
All right. We didn't even warn you about this because we suck.
Oh, yeah.
But we're getting at the hour mark, so that's where we start kind of bringing it home. This season, our question actually came from our friends in Rock Bottom String Band. We're going to ask you to recommend, and if you don't listen or do anything, that's okay, you can skip. We're going to look for a book, a podcast, and an album that someone should check out.
Well, okay, I can do that. That's a book. If I could recommend a book, I'm going to be your basic intellectual here. I'm going to recommend my favorite book of all time. It's Dead-Eye Dick by the one and only Kurt Vonnegut. I think Kurt Vonnegut is like really influential on the way I write because sometimes you don't know if you should be shocked, laughing, or crying. Like there's times where I'm reading along, I'm like, he's the funniest guy ever, and then I share like a passage with somebody and they're like, what the hell? That is not funny at all. That's tragic or terrifying. I love that book, and it is so just, I don't know. There's something about it that I go back to that book every couple of years. And I always read so much Kurt Vonnegut, which is, I always make the joke. I'm like, yeah, I am what you think I am. I am a dude who writes songs and reads Kurt Vonnegut. Yeah. And then podcasts. I mean, I guess music of the minor leagues. Let's recommend that first.
Well,
and then, I've been really into.
What do you listen to?
Say that again.
I said, what do you listen to? Like, maybe it's.
I listen to Behind the Bastards. Ooh. I love that podcast. You get to hear like about what's like who was behind Stalin, like a specific player in like like in
historical
the or like Oprah. Like, is Oprah a bastard? Like, she did give us Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz, and
we were just talking about people, the other day.
Partying with Diddy. That's why I was like, Oprah's a bad person. Which was it, the Doug Stanhope thing, like the P.T. Barnum of our generation, like the trotting all the Who had a bad thing happen to him? Let's put him on TV and make money off of him. So
yeah, like I love that. One that I get to listen to just because my partner is really into like just self-reflection and mental health and learning is there's one called Behind the Borderline, and it's a lady who has been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, but she talks about a lot of different mental health things, and it's really insightful and like really helpful when it comes to navigating situations when you're like emotionally stunted like I am as a human being, where I kind of raised myself for a few years and lost out on development, and I'm getting it back now, thank God. But stuff like that. And then as far as like, and you said an album, a record that I love, and I'm gonna have to, let me just get it here so I don't screw it up. There's a couple, but there's a guy from down south I really like. Hold on, where's my Spotify? I hate to use that word, but let's see.
Down south in the province, or
down south in the States.
Okay.
And I just need to find him now, and it's I think it's either I've never heard him say his name out loud. It's either Marcus Morrow or Marquise Morrow.
Okay.
And he's got a record called Tales and Tellings that came out in 2024. And I love that record. It blew my mind. I think it's just really good folk music. And it's, I think he's from Louisiana, but I don't 100% know.
Okay.
I really like that record. And then there's another guy I love from, I think he's from New York City, Dougie Poole. Don't know if you know him. But he's got a couple records that I love. The Freelancer's Blues, which he's got some really great and funny lyrics in that. He's got a song called Vaping on the Job, which is like, it's hilarious. And then The Rainbow Wheel of Death is his newest record, and I love that one. And he's got some brilliant stuff. And if you're looking for local Albertans, I can recommend my gal. Her name's Amy Nelson. She's got a record from 2019 called Educated Woman, and I think she's doing something that no one else has done. It's kind of a mix of, I guess, hill country blues, like a lot of drone, and like really good lyrics. And she's got a new record. I think she's going to go record soon, and I think she's really special. Don't mix her up with any of the other Amy Nelsons in the world. Her name is,
okay.
It's out there already. It's been used, but you'll know when you hear who I'm talking about. It's pretty special, and I'm really lucky to have someone that I've spent the last 15 years with who is such an original artist who can kind of blow my mind on the daily with what she's doing. And she's done more with 3 notes than I've done with like learning guitar. And she's just so good. Yeah.
Wow, what a compliment.
All right.
I hope she hears this.
Yeah.
I hope she does too.
Just skip to the end.
She's probably downstairs practicing. Yeah, skip to the end. Yeah. And I just want to say thank you guys for having me, because I feel like we're old friends. It's funny. I know we didn't talk about the Houston Astros as much as we should, but I still think I wish they were in the National League. I'd like them more.
I liked it more when we were in the National League too.
We did too, yeah.
The Killer Bees, that's like, I was a huge Lance Berkman fan. I tried to switch hit, and I could switch bunt. My left-handed stroke wasn't that great, and I was always number 17 for like regional tournaments when I wasn't playing for my hometown, because they'd stick me in left field. I'm like, I'm Lance Berkman now, baby. But I couldn't rake like Lance.
So we always called him Fat Elvis, because that's what he looks like.
He kind of looked like Fat Elvis.
Yeah. He's always, when he stole a base, he was joking on the radio. He called himself the Big Puma. Can't sleep on the Big Puma, because he stole like his first base, and they were like, you stole a base. He's like, can't sleep on the Big Puma. I'll pounce. Like, it's like,
oh man. Well, I always remember Biggio, Berkman, and then you had obviously he's slipping my mind, Beltran and Bagwell. Yep. And I remember when they traded for Beltran, and I was like, they got another B. They got another one. And I'm like,
what was his name? Barry, the third baseman. There were a bunch. Derek
Bell.
Bell.
Man.
Yeah, Bell.
It was like the entire starting lineup was all B names.
Those were the days.
Yeah, that's when I was into the Astros then. And then, like I said, I'm sorry, but they got good. And I was like, all roads lead through Houston. Well, we never made it there. Toronto always gets swept by like some team they should beat. And it's like, okay. And now we're like this weird, like, we're doing the hokey pokey. Are we in or are we out? We still got to beat the Rays. I hate the Yankees more. Don't worry. The Astros don't beat. They're like the Yankees.
Yeah.
I got no time for the Yankees. Like no, like I also like passionately like when both the Rays and the Jays were so bad in like the early 2000s. I had a disdain for the Rays. Carl Crawford. Oh man, I hated him. He just would destroy the Jays, and then he would like shit talk them in like media scrums, and I was like, what did we do to you? Like, why do you hate us so bad? So I hated them, and I still do deep down, because they just like pump out amazing pitchers, and like they could turn over a rock and turn a guy into like a high end reliever and then trade him for some stud prospect. So whatever. The Rays, I guess, I'm sorry. I'll take back my A's hate a little bit.
It's all right, man. That's
my Astros, not the A's.
Right.
The A's don't exist anymore.
They
can
do
call
not.
the Astros the A's now.
Yeah, we can.
But
technically.
the Astros, yeah.
That was great.
That's going to be weird. No more Coliseum games. Anyway, I don't want to like keep you guys forever because I can gab. It's nice to talk to people.
Just to shut it out, is there anything else you wanted to add? Any it's your chance to promo anything that we haven't covered?
Well, like I said, my record's dropping on March 7th, which
will be
I
2 days after
you
this
guys said
airs.
this is coming out March 5th. So yeah, check out Loser on anywhere you get music, and
Yeah.
I should be getting vinyl. If you want me to ship it to you, I'll do that.
Excellent.
Obviously, pay for the shipping. Canada Post is, they are going through it. They need the help. And then shout out to Sean Burns and Department Store Records. Check out Sean and what he's doing. He's kind of been repping me for a little bit here, and he's doing a good job. He got me connected with you guys, which I hope
Excellent.
one day I get down to Texas and we can drink a beer or whatever you guys like to do.
Heck yeah. We'll
Oh,
play
hell
a
yeah,
show.
man. Hit us up. Yeah, we'll do so.
We will play a show.
We'll even let you borrow a guitar so you can come down and be like, I don't need a work visa. It's fine. I'm just coming to hang out. And
Yeah,
then it'll be
that's the old
here's a
slip,
show.
eh? Yeah.
Hand you a guitar. And
Apparently our border guards are getting tough because with the tariffs going on, I mean, it's hard. I hope we can work that shit out, and
Yeah.
aluminum and eggs and groceries are cheap for all. And, I hope
Those were the days.
Mad
things
world.
are okay. Yeah. I hope you guys do okay down there. And,
You too. Hey, I
Life
can't wait
is
for
good.
everybody to hear this record. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I'm proud of it. And yeah, thank you.
no problem, man. All right, Kim, take us out.
Bye, y'all.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening to this episode of Music in the Minor League. We hope you dug it. Man, it was great to talk to Carter. Hopefully we keep in touch with him, man. We really dug talking to him. Remember, his album called Loser comes out this Friday. Give it a listen. If you're listening to this on Houston Collective Radio, it's out today. So go check it out. It's pretty good, man. Sean sent it to us and we really dug it. So give it a listen, man. That really does it for us. We hope you had a great time listening. We'll see you in 2 more weeks. Remember, share the podcast with friends. Tell people about the artists we talked to, man. It's the best way to get the word out. If you dig Carter's album, share it everywhere you can, man. Let people know about it. The best thing you can do to help independent artists. All right, on that note, we're going to head out, but we're going to leave you a piece of time from Carter's new album called Loser. Give it a listen, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Later.
Come on now, honey, what am I supposed to do? Every lie I tell seems to get back to you. I could be a good man, but that's low-hanging fruit. I was born to be a bad boy, out there on the loose. I go out on the town, come home too late, find you waiting there with tears across your face. But I've always been a loser, and that ain't bound to change. 'Cause slugging from the gutter is how I play the game. And all you want is a little piece of time. Well, honey, you can't have mine. Laying in your bed always is so sweet, but I'm blinded by the neon glow out there in the street. I'm hungry for a barroom busted stool. There ain't no happy ending loving a guitar picking fool. Inside all the darkness, you're reaching for a light. The shadows keep on feeding and make the wrong feel right. And I don't have to tell you who is number one. 'Cause in the world we live in, I'm the setting sun. All you want is a little piece of time. Well, honey, you can't have mine. You better go right now, 'cause I'm gonna grind you down like an ox hook to a plow. And I ain't gonna be the man you say you need. Love can be a prison as much as set you free. And I won't do the dirty work, my fortitude's too weak to say that I am leaving. Our words I'll never speak. 'Cause when my dreams are busted and my ego's left me down, this wayward train of heartache needs a soft place to land.